is used by the government to, attempt to control people's minds. And even more fascinating on that subject is his book, Penetration, which, I mean, you can giggle at that title if you would like. But he tells his story, of course, but towards the back is the actual verbatim CIA documents that he has access to because he was the one doing the remote viewing for Project Gateway, or the Gateway process. And with these actual CIA documents are diagrams and whatnot of things that he remote viewed on Mars, such as that shit right there. And I mean, that's just startling as all hell. But this one is definitely worth the purchase. Um, so a good question was, let me get back to it here. What is a book that opened my mind the most? Uh, there's a couple that come to mind, but right off the bat is John Max, Dr. John Max, Passport to the Cosmos. Because you think you're getting into a book about alien abduction, but as you get into it, you start to realize that there's a lot more to this experience and to this subject than meets the eye. I wonder if I can find a interesting section here. Like, for example, there's a chapter 13, Overcoming Fear, and he talks about what it's like for these people who encounter these beings and how they overcome that fear enough to transmute the relationship with these beings into something good and something that is positive for all of humanity. And it makes a good point that we assume that these beings are aliens from other planets, but that is just our sci-fi assumption of what's going on because we relate it to ourselves. And just like Graham Hancock brings up in his book Supernatural and Visionary, we seem to paint this phenomenon with our own hue of culture to where we think these beings come from other planets, but there's really not much evidence for that. If they came from the ocean or underground or from another dimension or something we haven't even thought of, it wouldn't make any difference. For example, in Africa, they called them the Nagas, and they said that they came from caves. And the ant people, too, came from underground. Uh, in Europe, the Greys were called fairies, and they were said to live, within the woods and whatnot, despite having flying crafts. But as far as any other books that have really, I mean, fucked me up, I'll tell you this: if I come over here to Fine Binding, the Red Book is something that I actually quit reading about right there, just because it's fucking scared the daylights out of me, and I almost felt like I couldn't finish it until I became a little bit more adept in some of his philosophy, because the book, the Red Book, went over my head a bit, but something kind of happened while reading it. I understood a great portion of it, but there was times reading it that I came across something I didn't understand, but still got like this tight feeling in my chest, like as if something within me did understand it, but I couldn't touch it. I couldn't find out what that was, but something was gyrated, something was agitated. So I had to put it down for a little bit, and I continued on with some of this more, I don't want to say watered down, but just philosophy that is outside of the crypticness of the Red Book. Psychology and the occult is perfect if you're interested in Jung because of these kind of these wisdoms. And Jung hits everything. I mean, the occult is one thing, but and with the same, it's kind of in the same set. Psychology of the East goes perfectly with anything Zen, but he helps to introduce Eastern thought and Zen to a normal Western person like many of us. Uh, Another book that really took me for a ride is The Secret of the Golden Flower, which is by Jung and Richard Wilhelm, and they dive really deep. I had to go ahead and get two of them. just because I mean it's that damn good. So if I want to lend one out, I know I'm safe with one of them to reread. But it illustrates Eastern mystical thought in a way that I think American people can understand a lot better. Let me see. All right, in another book that also, and I'm still on your same question, man. I'm sorry. I'll get to some of the other ones, but this Wim Hof method. I know it's not cryptic and occult or anything like that, but just having this book with some of the exercises that he lays out for you and the methodology behind it, and I mean, from curing hangovers to losing weight to having a better immune system to controlling your own body temperature, it's incredible what the human body can do to heal itself. And he didn't invent these methods; these are ancient Eastern methods. But he really makes it illustrated beautifully for us to take hold of and understand without having to get into any too deepness of spiritual connotation. Okay, and still on the same question here. Everyone knows of the Tao Te Ching, but a lesser known work by Lao Tzu that is called the Hao Hu Ching is absolutely incredible. It's supposedly by the same author, but the Hao Hu Ching differs in such a way that it is a conversation, almost like a Upanishad, between a student and Lao Tzu himself. Uh, I don't know. I've always put dots on everything if I like the part. So like I don't know, randomly for example here, one of the integral virtues follows the subtle law, and the subtle law alone. The subtle energy of the universe is elusive and evasive. It unveils itself in images and forms. Evasive and elusive, it discovers itself as indefinable substance, shadowy and indistinct. It further reveals itself as impalpable, subtle essence, yet which is so subtle yet so real. And this is, of course, seems to be, oh, it continues here. With unfailing sincerity, one may know and rejoin the subtle reality, returning to itself. Returning to itself is how the eternal, subtle essence exercises itself. So it's kind of illustrating the back and forth between life and death, ones and zeros, that oscillation between up and down and opposites that creates reality between the two hemispheres of the brain, but just very mystically said. And then it goes on into a bit of morale here. Being gentle and yielding is how the subtle essence employs itself. All things come from the manifest, and the manifest comes from the unmanifest. The softest of all things can overcome the hardest of all things. Only the insubstantial can penetrate the spaceless. Thus, I know the benefits of non action and silence. There are few under heaven who can attain it. And of course, that kind of points us to the subtlety and gentleness of our character is what allows that the emptiness of the self for the divine nature to penetrate us and into our lives, into our actions. Another one that messed me up is The Case Against Reality by Donald Hoffman. I smashed in like 4 days just because he scientifically proves that everything we see is basically an illusion, you know? Oh, there's the other kitty right there. That's Cleopatra hanging out with the bull that she killed herself with her bare paws. All right. Let me get back to the questions here. Let me see what I got. Enochian magic. I don't have anything on Enochian magic except for the Pillars of Enoch, where the science and religion used to be one thing under the pretense of symbolism. Uh, this book illustrates a lot on Enochian magic, but to make sure I don't get too watered down on it, I wanted to get the Book of Enoch itself, which is actually not too dense of a read. They touch upon magic a bit here, and as far as the actual magic goes, I do have, like, for example, the Arbitel, which is a wonderful read. Joseph Peterson is brilliant. Not to be confused with Jordan Peterson, of course, but that's about the closest I have to Enochian magic right there. Nothing that would be ritualistic, though. All right, let me chime back in here. Oh, I know the HemiSync video drops tomorrow, Anton, and I can't wait. I hope you're there to tune in whenever it kicks off. I'll be there to. I'll be there at the premiere as well. Matthew Lacroix or Lacroix, I presume. No, I don't have anything by Matthew Lacroix. Actually, I've never heard of that. Send me, hit me with a title of one of his books. I'll check it out if it's kind of similar to this concept. What book has given you the most insight and understanding on why NASA is fabricating so much? So, all right, I don't have a lot of necessarily conspiracy books, but what I do have is cover-ups, which is a gift to me by my son Jacob, and it goes into a bit about how NASA is not necessarily hiding the shape of the Earth, but just like everyone else, from cults to the government and anything that's a secret, it takes money. Religion, it's all about, I mean, well, depending on what branch of religion we're talking about, but it's money. When NASA fakes a video out in space and they're floating, and then we catch them because there's a glass of water on the fucking table, so you can tell, okay, obviously this is a fake video. Well, that makes people go crazy with speculation that sometimes gets a little wild. But the fact of the matter is, the more of those videos they show of them going to space and doing research, the more funding they get. So they make fake bullshit. In fact, a lot of pictures of Mars are just pictures of Nevada that they tint orange. And it's bullshit, and we deserve better than that. But again, it's greed. They know that the more they pump out, the more public interest goes up, and then their funding increases. Let's see here. Jung does interest me a lot. Thanks for putting me on to him. If you are new to Jung, I would, let's see here. The Haunted Prophet. It's kind of got a weird cover. Like, this is an old book, so a lot of his books are just very poorly covered, but this is not by Jung, but it's a story of Jung and how he came to his kind of mystical stance of psychology, how psychology led him to the esoteric arts and alchemy. Yeah, Arbitel it's wonderful. And it's wholesome too. There's nothing demonic about it. What led you down this path? Mine was waking up for 2014 from a coma with both my ankles and feet amputated. Something inside of me woke up. Holy shit, Jacob. That's fucking wild. I got a bunch of books on near-death experiences that kind of reminds me of. But what was it about? What woke up in you that made you come down this path, so to speak? Was it the loss of your feet, or was it while you were in a coma? Did you experience something otherworldly? Like, what was the thing that triggered you like that? Let's see here. The Illusion of Us, The Suppression and Evolution of Human Consciousness by Matthew Lacroix. Dude, that sounds amazing. The Illusion of Us, The Suppression and Evolution of Human Consciousness. That title alone, I'm going to have to actually write that down. I'm going to try to look that up tonight. Hopefully it's on Amazon or something like that. Zolar. I'm not so keen on that, actually. That would be a new subject for me. Yeah, that's Valentine Soulcrow. Same here. I'm very interested in what Jacob experienced because that sounds intense as fuck. Have I heard of the Book of the Cow? No, not since my son was like 2 years old when we were trying to teach him all the different farm animal noises and stuff. But if that's not the one you're talking about, I'm playing, by the way, but no, I have not heard of that one. All right, so I'm gonna come back to the shelf here in a minute, shortly, but some of the new ones I got going on here. The Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita is unexpectedly good. I was expecting to kind of get a rendition or a take on the Bhagavad Gita and some of the stances and whatnot involved, but this book is very much surprising me with just sheer insight into Eastern thought. I had to pick up another Jung. I haven't touched this one yet, but apparently this was one of his breakthrough works when he was very young, back in 1912. So I haven't dove into it yet, so I can't say much about it. But that's new. And the kitties are here to read too. I went ahead and got Robert Greene Mastery. I'm not a huge fan, but I am interested recently in just being able to master myself and who I am. So I might flip through that, but I'm probably not going to smash it like I do some of these. Which brings me to this fucking puppy right here. I got this one kind of on a whim just because of the name, Lost Art of Resurrection. I'd never heard of the guy before, and when I read the back, it kind of went into the archetype of resurrection as a metaphor and not literal death, you know. And as soon as I started this book, it just took me for a damn ride, and it's beautifully illustrated, although black and white. Oh, this kitty just turned off my light. Hold on a second. All right, kitty, don't do that. Don't do that, kitty. I'm gonna get you down from there. Come on. Everybody say hi to Cleopatra or Cleocatra. My daughter's my daughter's named the kitties. And Dr. Pickles looks like a Zen master because of his big white mustache. What's up, Dr. Pickles? How you doing? I want to tell you guys a little bit more about this resurrection. Sorry, I'm stuttering so much. It's I can usually speak, but this is kind of weird because I'm holding the phone and using my other hand to kind of handle these books and kitties. Oh, they're gonna get all jazzed up. Maybe I should just start putting the water up there. You guys aren't even supposed to be up there. You know that, huh? Oh, yep, she's drinking. She's drinking that monster. Better kill this before she does. All right, let me get back to the questions real quick. If there's not many left, I want to read some of this to you guys if I can figure out how to hold the camera right. Thank you for laughing at that, Derek. I appreciate it, man. Theosophy, of course. Oh, and my thoughts on yoga. So everything theosophy is down here, and of course, you know, you got the classic, you know. But so when it comes to theosophy, Meister Eckhart was a beautiful Christian philosopher. Whether you're a Christian or not, this book is wonderful for just kind of getting a new, fresh, almost dark perspective on religion. And speaking of dark and theosophy, the dark night of the soul really helped me get out of kind of a rut when I was going through my divorce and moving into a new home and stuff like that, and where I kind of mimicked this book in such a way that I took 3 weeks where I had no stimulation whatsoever. Basically, I fasted, and whenever I moved into my new house, which you're looking at right now, fasting besides water, and while working on the new house and renovating it, I had no contact with people for like 3 weeks. I turned off my phone. I literally nothing of stimulus went into me that was entertainment or otherwise enjoyable. I completely cut myself off from all desires and pleasures for 3 weeks straight. I mean, everything. No enjoyable foods. I ate spinach leaves. I kept it dark at night, and in the day when I woke up early. and I went into the cold and I renovated my house and I painted the walls. My ex-wife actually, believe it or not, painted the majority of the walls here. She did a very nice job on this straight line here. But this house did not look like this whenever I moved in. It it was pretty rough. But while going through what I was going through, this helped me find the light within myself that is completely undisturbed and perpetual, eternally forever. It's always there. There is always joy inside of you, inside your heart, at every moment of every day, no matter how bad things are for you, and you won't realize it because it's covered by so much distraction. It's covered by so much temptation and desire, and where I have to be tomorrow, where I have to be right now, and what's the next step. That you don't realize that joy inside your light, that bliss, the unpenetratable bliss that cannot be, the light that you can't hang anything on, is right there waiting for you to tap into. But you have to sacrifice yourself first before you get to that bliss. And unfortunately, just like Jung says, you can't find that light without darkness. And the best way to perpetuate your own joy is to do things that are of no pleasure, no stimulation whatsoever. So yeah, 3 weeks, no company, no phone calls, no Facebook, no social media, no YouTube, no dessert, just surviving and working and meditation. And it just resets you, so to speak. The Dead Sea Scrolls, it's a nice little classic. I'm looking for a finer bound version than this. Maybe something with a little bit more illustration to it. What are your thoughts on yoga? All right, so yoga, right off the bat, and you're going to make fun of me for this, but whenever I started getting into yoga, I had to I had to go ahead and get Jung's take on yoga before diving into it, just so I knew what I was getting into in a psychological way. And I wanted to kind of know the ins and outs of it from such a fucking brilliant man before I dove in for my own health and psychological purposes. Jung on yoga is great in such a way that, now Jung did not write this, but it's basically based off of Jung's research about yoga. And what I love about it is it's animated in such a way, or illustrated in there in such a way that it's almost animated. For example, every chakra has its own kind of section, and it's illustrated in such a way that it's enjoyable for kids, or even myself, which is, I'm a big fucking kid when it comes to yoga and a lot of other things. And Jung on and yoga is really nice. Now this I haven't dove into yet, but this book is straight up just called Kundalini Yoga Demystified. This is the yoga I've really been getting into lately, is the actual Kundalini Yoga, where we actually use cerebral spinal fluid to enhance our consciousness and to make our consciousness wider, therefore more open to opportunities. And I need to get into that one. And speaking of yoga, and this isn't too much into yoga, but I know you guys have seen this a million times, I'm sure. So, I mean, I had to get it because this is the science behind Kundalini, which is, I think, important, especially if you have a skeptical soul. Thank you. I know they are beautiful kitties. They're right here. They're not leaving me alone. They're like getting pet on the bellies. Dr. Pickles, you're such a troublemaker. Little bitty. These little guys are only 8 weeks old, I think. Happy to have them. Can you upload this so we can watch it later? Yes, yes, I think so. In fact, I think it just stays up for a few weeks. I got asked this question recently about a podcast I did with Ivan Savage. And as some people can't find it now, I haven't looked into it yet. I guess maybe the live casts disappear after a while. I'm not really sure. But like I said, I'm this YouTube channel thing exploding for me is a bit of a, I don't want to say it's a flaw or a fluke or anything like that, because I do have a passion about what I've been doing. But this YouTube thing was really just a hobby. I'm a musician. I've been trying to do music for 15 fucking years, as you can tell, at the studio and whatnot. And I do record and write music for Void Stares Back, and I continue to do that to this day. But I mean, with music, nothing ever happened, So now I use my own music to do for the background of sounds of my videos. And whenever that Saturn video just fucking exploded, I almost felt like I didn't have a choice. Like some higher power just turned me in a left direction, and it happened right after I moved and after a very low point of my life, which actually brings me back to, and I'm sorry I spent a lot of time on this one, but that YouTube video exploding, which changed my life, because of all you guys, came only a couple days. It was 3 days. I didn't even realize how fucking crazy that was. Resurrection. My Saturn video exploded 3 days after I performed My Dark Night of the Soul. And oh man, I can't believe I didn't realize that before. See, this is what you guys are good for, man. Like, you're making me realize shit about myself I didn't even know. But yeah, hopefully this one stays up, Chosen One. And I will look into it to make sure. Maybe I can send it to you somehow if there's a complication. So Ambriel, the Vintage Witch. Okay, so my fear might be based in ignorance, and I will admit that. But I've been freaked out a couple times. For example, and I'll try to keep this quick. One time when I was doing dimethyltryptamine, which I had done so often that, I mean, not often like every day, but once every 3 months, maybe upwards of 25 times by now. I had a horrible experience with this fly. I crossed the threshold, broke through, and there was this fly opening a box frantically with all kinds of little devices, and he was mechanical. And he turned to me and he opened his mouth to smile, and he had big fucking white human teeth. And it freaked me out so bad. When he opened the box, he had like the buttons of my nervous system, fear and panic. It was absolutely terrible. And then my buddy Jason Barron, who is the owner of Salty Siren Tattoo, he's got all the grimoires and whatnot. And I really didn't make any connections, but getting into these things, I became interested in grimoires. I cracked open one of his grimoires, and right there, as I opened it, was a fly, a mechanical robot fly with human teeth. His name was Belzeb or something like that. And I closed the book immediately. I said, Jason, I have seen this entity before. And he was like, yeah, I don't doubt it. And he told me a little bit about it and how they become attracted to you and whatnot. And I was like, oh, I don't want that creature near me. I don't want him around me. I hope to never see that creature again. He was sheer torment, just personified into a demon. And where I saw him the second time was in that grimoire, and it kind of shook me up, Let's see. If you can tell me something about grimoires that I'm not familiar with that can help clear me up of this, please do share. Oh, Viktor Frankl. Yeah, the suffering that Viktor Frankl undertook during his time in a concentration camp is psychologically so helpful to mankind that it's almost good that he went through that so he could illustrate to us what it takes to get through those kinds of things. Yeah, that does remind me of Viktor Frankl as well. I don't have any of his work. Beelzebub, yeah, Robin, thank you. Yeah, and that's a common name, and it's almost a stereotype, but that's what the fuck I saw. Now, given I realized that it was on a tryptamine, but I was there, dude, and I seen him. 3 weeks, 3 days, 21 plus 3 equals 24 equals 6. So Saturnus. Oh my, Saturnus. Lady Capera Ankh. Thank you very much for that bit of, I guess, numerology, because yeah, absolutely that makes sense. That is kind of what I went through in the form of a mathematical equation. And I went to hell and I resurrected to heaven, is what it seems like, is what it feels like. Uh, Derek, bro, no way. Dude, you have so much purpose, man. Keep it up. The first person on YouTube that I can relate to. I appreciate that so much. And I can't believe that. I'm so surprised that a lot of you guys are vibing with me more than you do AJ from Y Files, or uh, the what's the great channel, Dr. Justin Sledge's Esoterica. Like, you guys are like, compared to those guys, I feel like I'm an infant, you know. And you guys giving me this love like this really makes me want to get not only on par with them, but really bring my own flavor of I don't want to say teaching, but of speculation to this whole thing. I want to speculate. I don't want to read facts. I don't want to teach. I want to speculate together with you guys, you know, because this is all mystery. This is all mysterious. Anyone who tells you they know what the fuck's going on is either a liar or delusional. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So the best I can do is kind of talk with you guys and read this information and share it and share ideas and coagulate something together. Whether we're right or not, we owe it to ourselves and to higher powers to explore ourselves and become more than this animal body, you know. Um, and don't say that. No, dude, I am no guru, dude. I don't know what the fuck I am doing in my life, bro. I I am bouncing nimble bimble just like these kittens are from fucking place to place, wondering what the fuck's going on, and by all means, sometimes suffering very deeply, dude. If anybody needs a guru, it's me, and I am not that. But fucking thank you very much. Yeah, it was very intense, Embryo. That it's a lot to get into here. We have a mutual friend. Is that on Facebook? Um, haha, lol, cool. Oh yeah, to that story. Uh, Antoine, you're so happy I blew up, and I am very happy that I blew up as well. And I'm reeling about it, and I fucking can't believe it. And in a weird way, I'm at work today, and I'm wondering. I know I'm supposed to be talking about books and shit, but I'm responding to these. I kind of feel like I might be a passing fad, or maybe a trend right now that's gonna come and go. And I'm not trying not to be self-defeatist with that, but I mean, just all this love and attention I'm getting for what I love doing, what I would be doing anyway, is not only a blessing, but changing my life every single day. That I almost feel like I don't deserve it, you know, and I feel like um, I haven't. For example, I'll read Manly P. Hall, and it'll just make me want to quit writing books because he's so fucking good. Or I'll watch AJ on the Y Files, and he just makes me want to quit making YouTube videos because he's just honed his art so well that I'm nowhere close to being like that. But like I said, this is fairly new, and hopefully over the course of the next year, my videos will be professional and up to par with those guys. Ryzen ability, you're very welcome. Oh, so you've got Book of Wonderful Suffering. Thank you very much, dude. And yes, definitely, I'm glad you're sharing it with your daughter. But keep this in your head, Ryzen, that if you are reading to kids, read ahead with your kind of side eye a little bit during certain chapters. The Black Cube chapter, and Don't Run from Your Shadows, and what's the other chapter? The Circus World. Those three in particular, kind of read a little bit slow so you don't read something out loud that she doesn't need to hear. depending on her age, of course. But some chapters are perfect for kids. 1 and 2 are perfect for kids. The Zen Master chapter is perfect for children. Dying is perfectly safe. The very last chapter in my book is great for children. It brings comfort despite what it might sound like, you know. Is there any advice you would give to yourself before you started down this path? Yes. And Antoline, this is I can't, I'm sorry I'm saying your name wrong. I'm gonna call you Trinity Grapes. That's what I'll call you. I almost don't want to say, but I mean, it's such a good fucking question. I want to keep it real. I would have told myself to stay sober. I would have began my sobriety so much sooner if I had realized the clarity that comes with not being tainted by these fruits of desires that drugs and alcohol bring us, that are so temporary and so fleeting, you know. Just like a dream, those things will sort of bring you bliss, but you're going to the top of the tree and harvesting the fruits, and whenever you come back down, you have no choice but to be heavier. You seek into the earth deeper, into those roots, and that's where you stay. Whenever we consume drugs and alcohol, we're forcing a high, so a slingshot effect takes place, and then the rest of our life just becomes lows. And even though I've been on this path before my sobriety, long before my sobriety, which is fairly new, by the way, so uh, you know, Godspeed, I suppose. But that's the advice I would have given myself before doing this. And yeah, exactly, Austin Simon, you're correct. An eternal student forever. All of us are, even teachers, you know. Just a reminder, he says, Rise in Ability says, just a reminder, nothing is absolute except the Creator, and we are all His children of light, always learning. Absolutely correct, man. And that reminds me of the word hue, man. That hue means light, and man seems to be short for manifest. It's almost as if we are fractals of God or some sort of higher power, you know. And now I don't know if that hue man kind of ambigram or whatever, it's not an ambigram, but is a coincidence, but it's just very interesting the way it's worded. Thank you, Yoga Boy. I was taken, Charles Middleton said, I was taken to the Aya DMT space by Ezekiel's wheel after eating an Aya peanut butter and jelly. That moment really showed me that I was looking at religion and like in the wrong way. Exactly. Right. Religion, when you go to church, when you're a kid, just like school for education, fucking ruins it. It ruins it. That's all I can say. And you get it. Oh, not reading it with my daughter. I share it with her. Oh, you share the knowledge with her. Perfect. Oh, yeah, she's 4 years old. Exactly. And that's kind of the idea, too, is whenever I read something absolutely mind-blowing, I know that it's not going to just get digested. You know, if I read something like this, and I mean, this fucking sucker was, what, 800 pages, you know, and I still haven't gotten through all of this yet. But you can't just go and tell your children about this literally. So in a way, when it comes to our own children, as opposed to showing them this or telling them these things, we have to be it. We have to embody our own philosophy. We have to literally not talk about it, but fucking be about it, you know? And that's what I think Manly P. Hall really comes in handy for. Here, actually, let me show you this. Speaking of don't talk about it, be about it. The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, it is perfect to illustrate how we don't have to be Freemasons to embody correct character and being. I want to show you guys a portion of this book that really caught my interest about overcoming the self. So I'm going to read the caption of these three illustrations that are spaced out a bit, but they go together in such a way that you'll kind of understand here. So in these three steps of initiation, oh, I got to rotate my phone. Hold on. In these three steps of initiation, Manly P. Hall lays out mastery. So the first one, the guardian of the threshold, illumined and sanctified for his labor by the realization of the individual responsibility, the candidate goes forth to master his own lower nature, the beast that must ever stand between him and the altar of his God. The lessons of self mastery were taught in all the mystery schools. So this is facing that beast, and that's very occult and everything, but in a non-occult way, I've got this one, which I should have answered earlier, that changed my life forever. It's a very small book, by the way. You can read this bitch in fucking 15 minutes, but Riding the Ox Home is exactly what he's talking about here, but in the form of Zen, overcoming the animal body. And the more you overcome the animal body, the more emptiness we have for divine nature to come into our spirit, into our lives, you know. And then there's a second step here, the entered apprentice. So, and then here's the second step, at the gates of the temple of wisdom. And you can tell this, you have the Masonic steps here, the pillars, the fire on one side, and he is overwhelmed by the light. So he can't handle it yet. So let's read this. Bound, it's hard to hold with one hand. Bound with the cobble toe of limitation, poor in spirit and body, man seeks admittance into the university of understanding. In the ancient mysteries of order of the steps was 7, 5, and 3. The 7 arts and sciences, the 5 senses and emotions, and the 3 steps symbolic of the Trinity of God and man. So in a way, the second step is actually 3 steps, all of which have a different numerical amount of steps that are, of course, sacred numbers. You have the checkered board floor that depicts duality and a kind of a labyrinth form that we all go through with the 2 hemispheres of the brain and the opposites, desires, good and bad. And these steps lead us to, and it's hard to see here, at the very top, that's really freaking this guy out, is that eye of Horus, that all-seeing eye, which of course is, as opposed to these pillars and the checkerboard floor, just one thing. It's unity. So the very last step in self-mastery that Manly P. Hall illustrates to us here in the beginning of this chapter, the Master Mason. At this point, that last guy was able to climb up them fucking stairs without an escalator or a walking stick. I guess he made it. And here is a personification of him where that eye of Horus was depicted. So this reads, the Master Mason. In this picture is concealed the allegory of the lost world. The Master Mason, having completed his labors, becomes a worker on a higher plane than the one in which the ordinary builder is permitted to work. The Master Mason becomes the capstone of the universal temple. And what this illustrates is that if you think of a mason is somebody who builds buildings or creates things, and he creates external things, whereas the Freemason has already done that and graduated that, and then he applies those same teachings of apprenticeship to journeyman into himself, into his character. So he considers his temple to be his character, and his altar is his face of a is his self in the face of adversity, and the Holy Grail is reminiscent of his soul. So the Freemason basically takes the teachings of the Mason and brings them into the subtle, he brings the subtle energies that permeate reality into the gross lower realms, and thus becomes free and immortal, and those who contact him as well become enlightened. In many cases, like you'll find with the Zen masters. And I'm behind on questions here. Let me see here. Shit. Okay, there's a list here. Let me. Yeah, Eternal Seeker, absolutely. Part 2 of the Secret Teachings audiobook. Nice, dude. Yeah, get you a physical copy, man. There's nothing quite like it. It's just more relaxing, you know. Oh, Initiates of the Inner Flame. Yeah, I do have that one. And this one is actually Manly P. Hall's very first book, which is kind of weird considering that he wrote Initiates when he was young. And it's a little guy. You can read this in maybe 1 or 2 sittings, but then jump directly to oh my god, his second book, which is his kind of magnum opus, uh, is quite a bit bigger. In fact, man, I'll tell you what, that seems about 12 times bigger. But this was a great start for him, and I'll recommend this if anybody is interested in Manly P. Hall, and just like me, hesitate to jump into such a fucking girthy book like this that is very hard to swallow in some ways. Something like this, and not because of the size, but just the way it addresses these esoteric concepts, is less dense and more easy to swallow than a big old fucking girthy dick like this one. Uh, yeah, so Rise in Ability, good call on that one. And yeah, Gnosticism is touched upon by both Jung and Manly P. Hall. So between this section and this section, they cover Gnostic teachings, and then bam, I mean, there's Gnostic shit all over this bitch. In fact, I should just do a video on straight Gnosticism, but I'm hoping my next video might actually be based off of this book right here, The Lost Art of Resurrection, because I've just got so fucking much to say about it, but I'm still very early in the book. And by the way, little synchronicity, whenever I open this book at the store, and I don't want to lose my place here, there's a fucking brochure in here for ayahuasca. And it comes with translators, 1500 1500 for 7 days. You go down to Peru, and yeah, they hook it up. It's like a 5-day ceremony thing over the course of 7 days, but kind of reminiscent of the book. So no wonder somebody stuck it in there. Sometimes I stick little bookmarks when I go to Barnes and Noble or Half Price Books. I'll stick my little bookmarks that have my QR code to the channel in there, hopefully to be found. Rise in Ability says, I get so excited telling my friends and people the things I've read. It blows their mind, but I'm always nervous. Absolutely. And if you want to be less nervous about speaking about this information, sometimes it helps to bring a bit of humor to it. Like if just a moment ago, I just referred to this book as being easier to swallow than this girthy ass dick right here. And that, I think, just like Bill Hicks' comedy, brings people to the subject matter in a way that is delightful. And another way to do it is always to be speculative. Don't preach. I'll never preach anything. I'll never tell anybody what's right or wrong. So whenever I talk about some of this shit, especially with people who are, I hate to say normal, regular people, even if I'm asked about it, I maintain a humility of speculation, and I start a lot of sentences with what ifs, and it could it be so that, and it helps take the nerves out of it, because nobody likes a pseudo preacher, and especially a guy like me. I'm nobody to be preaching fucking anything, but I do have a lot of ideas and speculation of how all of this kind of connects to each other, and I love sharing that with people. um Austin Simon, Breaking the Cycle, indeed, sir. What's the oldest book that you have? Derek, your fucking questions are killing it, bro. All right. So to show the oldest books, I'll have to come over here for a second because I've got some really ancient motherfuckers right here. And I can't wait to show you that here in a moment. But now, even though this book was printed recently, it is actually technically the most ancient book I have because it's a word list. Now, the reprinter went through and added words to it to try to help, solve some of the mystery here, which is all speculation. But this is a wordless alchemical manuscript from 1677. And, well, that's not, but they use other pictures as well to kind of compare and contrast this manuscript to other cultures and whatnot. But basically, this alchemical manuscript is technically the oldest thing I have, but it is a reprint. Now, all right, so let's get to some shit that's actually very old. Let me see here. Okay. Where is, I've got you guys are going to fucking love this. Check this out. So I don't know if you guys have half price books where you're at, but Thus Spake Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, right? I seen the title on the shelf at half price books. I saw the age on this, and it's yellow and dingy and dirty and it cracks, but it's still in good shape. There's notes in it from old. Somebody wrote in it and it's been loved before. Oh, that cute bookmark, right? So looking at the date here, I came to find that this was actually printed in 1920. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 18. Where's the fucking thing at? It's hard to memorize this thing. 1819 is when this person had the book. So it was printed before that. I put the date in, the VIN number and all that in, or VIN number, like it's a fucking car. But I put the information in. I paid $14 for this at half price books. It is worth $6,000. In the bad condition I have it in, it's worth about $1,200. So dudes, guys, go to used bookstores and find titles like this. They don't know what they have. People just dump off all of their grandpa's books and then as a donation, and sometimes they're worth, I mean, in this case, priceless, but I could sell this motherfucker for $1,000. This copy of Faust by Goethe is absolutely beautiful. It's leather and gilded and gold, and I don't want to say how much I paid for it because I am embarrassed, but like this texture is actually like very it's almost like an optical illusion. The way it moves, it shines different colors and stuff, but that's just aesthetic, of course. But this is an old ass book that is wonderfully illustrated and still clean despite its age. It must have been in plastic for a really long time. But this is one of those books where I seen it, I was interested in Goethe, and if I'm gonna get a book like Faust, I don't want a paperback, floppy version of it. It's such a classic that I wanted it to be a collector's edition. Okay, so Paradise Lost by John Milton is another obvious classic, and there's other poems by him in here. And this is another ancient one. It's not quite worth as much money as the Nietzsche book, but when I looked this one up because of the Nietzsche book, I found it to be worth a few $100s, about $400, whereas I was able to pick it up for quite a bit cheaper. Another really old one, the works of Emerson, is anything Emerson is wonderful, and this one is obviously a little worn and torn, but it is a hardback, and it is one of the older ones that I have here. All right, what else do I have here? Sorry, I'm holding my phone weird. Now these are fine bound and whatnot, but they're not. These aren't actually necessarily old. But just while I'm here, though, fucking look at this shit. If this is not the most beautifully, it's red leather, gold. I don't. It's probably not real gold, but it's just so wonderfully made that, man, I almost wish that Book of Wonderful Suffering, hopefully one day, if successful enough, I would like to have reprinted in such a way. If not, maybe even just do it myself, because you can actually bind books like this. And of course, if you're going to be a fan of the Bhagavad Gita, you got to have a fine bound gilded version of that as well. Now, this one is not necessarily old. It's maybe about 40 years old, but it kind of matches the same paradigm as these other oldies that I got. And of course, I mean, not old at all. This, in fact, this is brand ass new, but it's got that kind of old feel to it. It's got the gilded pages, shiny, you know, and this is obviously, it's just a must have for anyone even starting out in Hermetic philosophy. So those are some of the old guys. I am a perhaps man. That's a fucking great word to kick it off. Yeah. All right. Sushi Fart. Sushi Fart. I'm going to read your comment just because your name's Sushi Fart. I was just reading Initiates of the Flame and opened the stream to you talking about it. No, oh, no shit. Oh my God. That's fucking crazy. So you mean to tell me that while you were farting sushi, you were reading Initiates of the Flame, and then you opened this up while I was talking about Initiates of the Flame, and now I'm hungry for sushi, but I'm not hungry for farts. But damn, that is crazy synchronicity. And you know what? I think our man Jung would be very proud to maybe he caused that synchronicity. Ryzen Ability says, my friend Serge never came back from his ayahuasca trip. Oh my goodness. So he just left forever. Man. Well, shit, I hope he's okay. If I don't already have it, a great read is The Secrets of the Seven Metals, A Bridge Between Heaven and Earth by Nick Collerstrom. I don't have that, but there's that book recommendation, and there's another one. Was it you? I'm going to have to go back and read these comments, because that's two books now that you guys have recommended that I absolutely need to pick up. And if you guys watch my videos or whatever, and something comes up that you realize that I haven't never heard of, or maybe even think I've never heard of, let me know about it. I'm thirsty. You know what I'm saying? The Egyptian Book of the Dead. So, all right, I'm going to get to that. I do have the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is absolutely, I mean, just a fucking thriller if you're into that shit. Now, where is, though, my Egyptian Book of the Dead? Here it is. Yeah, so this is another example of, if I'm going to get such a cryptic book, I'm not going to go get some paperback from online. I want to get like this is like fuzzy and shit, and just black, like, and wonderfully, beautifully just color illustrated. And don't look at my feet, guys. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead are so parabolic to each other. They're like parallel. And these guys who wrote these books actually died and resurrected, literally, to be able to report what they saw on the other side. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I do have the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But to be honest with you, even though the Egyptian Book of the Dead is more popular, I find the Tibetan Book of the Dead to be more comforting, if I might be a bitch enough to say that, because in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they weigh your heart against a feather, and it's heavier you have to cycle again in, a form of hells like we are now. And my heart is not fucking lighter than a feather, so I'm fucked. However, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they present to you many, many ways on how to transcend the cycle of hells that we have in this world of samsara. All right, back to the live chat. True, Sushi Fart. True, you were even talking about synchronicity a little after that too. Damn. Do you remember when Jung was skeptical about tarot cards, right? And he pulled up the tarot reader, or maybe he was doing his own reading. Pulled up the scarab, the beetle, and it was like what card was it? Like transmutation or something alchemical, because the dung beetle is known to turn shit into a house or basically lead into gold. And he pulled the card, and he did feel like it was weird that he was into alchemy and pulled that card, but he was still early in his mystical learning, so he was skeptical, and he even deduced it. Well, there's 52 cards here, and I pulled one, so it's a 1 in 52 chance that coincidence. But as he had that thought, a beetle, a literal scarab beetle, flew into his window and landed on his desk. And at that moment, it was as if he was like, okay, fine, I give in. I cannot scientifically deduce this, psychologically explain it. I can't mathematically get to how this is possible. And he kind of, I don't want to say caved, but woke up to realizing that there's a lot more to this world than the five senses pick up. And in that moment, I believe that a higher power of some sort understood Jung's IQ, creative nature, his vision, and just his absolute brilliance to give this message to the world that it's almost as if a higher power just flicked that fucking beetle right into his window. It'll be like, dude, like, wake up. Hey, I'm right here. Look, all you got to do is look. And Jung got the message, when a man's IQ is fucking 270 and he starts to get into tarot and shit like that, who are we to argue with such a man, Cream says, I was linked to your Saturn video from Poll. Do you browse Poll? No, but okay, you were linked to the Saturn video from /POL/. I don't know at all what POL is at all. But if my YouTube videos are linked to that somehow, I definitely want to know more about that. Please send me libraryoftheuntold@gmail.com. Send me whatever that is, because right now I'm trying to explore any outlet that can help, I don't know, expand and grow this thing. I know we're talking about books, but there's so many good documentaries you could recommend about these topics. There, you are absolutely right. And I feel like I definitely should get more into documentaries. But, oh man, I don't know. Something about watching a screen and trying to follow along. Even though it's easier to do, I find my mind wandering. Whereas with a book, it's alive and it's speaking to you and it's in your hands, and it's almost like some kind of aliveness or sentience is coursing through the pages, like somebody is speaking directly to you, and it's hypnotic to me. And I should watch more documentaries, but even audiobooks I should delve more into, but I don't know, man. The only thing that really never quite quenches my thirst, but really gets me there, is to grab one of these son of a bitches and just fucking shove it in my face and fucking soak it in. I find it to be easier and more relaxing and more subtle in a way than watching a screen. But to each his own, of course. I'm in no way shunning anybody's personal preferences. I find that Lady Shapira Ankh says, I find the Tibetan Book of the Dead with its shifting bardos to be considerably confusing and abstract, but beautiful to read. That is something I came across early on in reading some of these things, especially like Red Book, is that I it was confusing to me, especially at first, and still is in many ways. But it read so beautifully that I was locked in, you know. And even if I had to reread a passage 2 or 3 times, or even after rereading a passage, having to go to another book to understand the concept that was referred to in part one of the statement, and then had to go look up a word about part two of the statement, and then had to connect the two by going online and reading other people's interpretations of it, and then coming back to the book again and trying to swallow a concept that just, I mean, for us, compared to Jung, we are just absolute infants. So it's baby steps, you know, one step at a time, and we're in this shit together, you know. And we're never going to get to the point to where we can understand ourselves or the universe the way that Jung or Lao Tzu or Manly P. Hall ever have, but we certainly do owe it to ourselves to attempt to walk in that direction for the sake of all of humanity, the betterment of all humanity. And as we know, and as we've learned from many of these videos, the more we improve ourselves, even if incremental, is that much further for all of humanity, you know? Uh, so let me, I'm going to end this broadcast. We're getting a little long here, but I do want to touch upon a couple parts in here, and I wonder if I can't somehow put my phone down in such a way that I can actually read this. Uh, I'm gonna do another one of these where I either got somebody holding the camera, um, or set it up in such a way that I don't know that I can hook it up to something where I can actually open these up and read from them. But there's a couple parts in here, and again, this was kind of a whim, a buy on a whim that surprised me significantly. Like, kind of like riding the ox home. It was only, I think this thing was like $4. So I was like, oh hell, I might as well get it. And I'll get into this one later, maybe do a whole video on it. But this book, this little bitty guy of about maybe 70 pages, absolutely transformed me for, I mean, fuck, for good. Uh, so this book, Lost Art of Resurrection, explains how resurrection throughout ages is not necessarily meant to be taken literal as death and being resuscitated, like in the case of the original baptisms, but a form of death of the ego, as is said nowadays, but a form of loss of all the myriad things and distractions of our five senses and animal nature to link us with that unified field, that main light within us that we need to let shine through us. And the only way for that light to shine is through death, which leads to resurrection. And I'll read a couple parts here real quick. Oh man, I've got so many dots that it's going to be hard to pick which parts to read here. So, all right, at this, what's not a good part to start with? Hold on. All right, here we go. This is a good little spot. The mind is affected and agitated in death just as it is in initiation into the grand mysteries. The first stage is nothing but uncertainties, laborings, wanderings, and darkness. And now, arrived on the verge of death and initiation, everything wears a dreadful aspect, and it is all horrors, trembling, and affrightment. But this scene, once over, a miraculous and divine light displays itself. Perfect and initiated, they are free, crowned, triumphant, and they walk in the regions of the blessed. And that reminds me a lot of the Dark Night of the Soul that I have over there by St. John of the Cross. And there's a lot of connections to be made there. Um, so, and there's another a form of whenever some of these guys would enter the bardo through hallucinogens or fasting or self-mutilation or isolation, would have these kind of astral experiences. Here's a 4th century Greek philosopher, Themistius. By the way, you'll notice I might pronounce shit a little fucked up, but that comes from not watching documentaries and stuff and just reading. So a lot of these words I've actually never heard said. So my apologies for that. But entering now into the mystic dome, he is filled with horror and amazement. He is seized with solicitude, and total perplexity. I'm trying to read this through my phone. Sorry, guys. He is unable to move a step forward, and he is at a loss to find the entrance to that void, which is said to lead him to the place he aspires to. So he's afraid of that light. To get to where he needs to be, he has to pass through that fear. And then the quote continues, but now in the midst of his perplexity, the prophet or conducting hierophant suddenly lays open to him the space before the portals of the temple. So he's guided to what you might call autopsia, which means to see something with your own eyes. After thoroughly purified, the hierophant now discloses to the initiated a region all over illuminated and shining with divine splendor. So the cloud and thick darkness are dispersed, and the mind, which before was full of disconsolate obscurity, now emerges as it were into day, replete with light and cheerfulness, out of the profound depth into which it had been plunged. So this reminds me a lot of Jesus descending down to hell before his resurrection into heaven, and also reminds me a lot, of course, of Jung and his plundering into the depths of his own psyche. Hey, sissy, what's going on? Did you text me earlier? I apologize. This is Jacinda, guys. It's my daughter. She's beautiful, and sometimes I annoy her with this shit. So, God bless her. But Jung, as you know, Jung went into the depths of his own soul for his Dark Night of the Soul, and there's a common theme there. And of course, the same as Saint John of the Cross did for his 3 weeks. So there's a lot of other part. This is the last section I'll read from this particular book that I am very excited about recently. In ancient China, it was a normal practice for holy people to take flight from the body, fueled by alchemical narcotics, to wander through celestial spheres and sacred mountains. They even had an epithet describing sages who'd mastered living resurrection. Quote, ascended to heaven at the height of the day. The founder of Taoism, Lao Tzu himself, regularly left his body to, quote, go for a stroll at the origin of things. And holy shit. I mean, just, it just makes me want to just lay down reading something like that. To realize that a man can, and it's so playfully said, the way that he would just go for a stroll. Where? Not to the astral realm, not to some woo-woo fancy land. He took a stroll to the origin of all things. Can we even fathom or imagine what that not only must be like, but is not like? What a perplexity. What an absolute paradox. Joseph Campbell, Mist of Light, is good for that kind of mystical stuff. By the way, I'm a sucker for sets. If you got a book and that shit is in a set of 3, I gotta have every single one of them. Which, by the way, I shouldn't say this, but before I end this video, I'll tell you guys that Book of Wonderful Suffering might actually, I don't have one, but on me right now. But Book of Wonderful Suffering should, if all goes well, if they sell well enough, and so far so good, should be a set of three. So obviously the first one is going to be Book of Wonderful Suffering. The second follow up is going to be Book of Unbelievable Truths. And the third and final one of the Trinity is going to be called Book of Unbearable Speculation. And each one, each title, of course, has an oxymoron, kind of a paradox type of title to it. And that is on purpose. And once you guys dive into it, you'll kind of see why that is. You know, the unification of the trifecta, the triangle, and the paradox is primordially part of who we are and our consciousness and our fractaled geometric projection of reality in the first place. Because we have to remember that reality is not objective. It's up to us. It comes from us, and we create it in every moment. And with that being said, let me read these last couple here. When did you start to think like this and have these curiosities? Dude, to be honest with you, and I kind of answered a little bit earlier, but it came from pain and poorness. And dude, before I had everything, and my, you know, financially speaking, I haven't really made a breakthrough on YouTube or anything like that yet financially, but I am a union glazer, and I live fairly comfortable now. But about 7 years ago, it was not the case. I was forced to learn about alchemical transmutation in order to save myself from myself. And it's something that's accessible to anybody. And I'll tell you what, if anyone has skepticism about alchemical transmutation, well, just fucking ask me about it, and I'll tell you that these are not things that I was born to have. Statistically speaking, the way I came into this world, I should be either underground or in a worse place. Maybe a Casey's gas station. Uh, so the initiated Kali Bhakta, that sounds fucking cool. A sacred text of India. Lady Kapura, please send me either an email or I'll come back and I'll read these comments, and I want to get these. I want to get so far all 3 or 4 of these books that have been recommended to me. Anything you guys recommend, I'd be happy to buy. I don't know if I'll be able to read all the way through all of them, but I love to thumb through and find and highlight certain parts that catch my attention. And sometimes that's how I find the best connections in my videos, of how this connects to that and this seems to indicate that, but no one really made that connection yet. That's where I'm trying to drive my little, I guess you might say, brand, you know. And Rise in Ability, thank you for thanking me for sharing, dude. And thank you for your recommendations and your awesome questions, dude. If you were not here, and this goes for the rest of you, I would not be doing this right now. And my appreciation is beyond what you guys might be able to imagine. And well, in the same way, I suppose I appreciate you guys the same way you appreciate me. And it fucking, God is, gosh darn, almost brings me to tears to fucking have these interactions with you guys. It's what I've needed for so long. Thank you so much. And Lady Ankh, thank you very much too. I'm gonna let you guys go, and hit me up if you guys want to do another one of these, because I mean, I didn't even scratch the surface, dude. If I can get somebody to hold the camera, or maybe set up in a different way where I can crack these open and show you some of my favorite parts, I would love to do that, because I think I touched upon maybe 5% of what these books have done to me in my life. You know, like for example, I didn't even jump into, I said I would, but I didn't even get into the Agora. But anyways, I'll let you guys go, and thank you very much for tuning in. And I'll see you tomorrow tomorrow is the premiere of Gateways of the CIA. And I hope you guys love the video. And now I'm going to try to figure out how to turn off this live stream.